Good evening, fans of Playwright. How are you? I hope this evening's treating you well. The COVID situation is improving wherever you are or is stable. It's not worsening, hopefully. Things are good with Playwright. We've been hosting a lot of shows. We are on to our 34th edition this evening. And with us this evening, we have someone from Manhattan, not New York, Manhattan, Kansas, in the US of A. A bright 21-year-old athlete from India who's going to do us proud at the Tokyo Olympics, who's the current holder of the indoor and outdoor high jump records at 2.28 and 2.29 meters respectively. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you Tejaswin Shankar, along with Aashray Jain and Tejaswin were studying together, and that's how we managed to get Tejaswin here. And Aashray and Tejaswin's friendship, I hope, is going to grow this evening. Aashray, over to you with the first question for Tejaswin.
Hi, Tejaswin. Hope everything's good back home and in Kansas. So I would like to start off by asking you about your early years. So I don't think a lot of people know this, but before Tejaswin was a national record holder, he used to play cricket. He was a right-arm fast bowler who represented Tamil Nadu in club cricket. So I wanted to ask you how was that, and what made you switch to athletics?
First of all, hi Aashray, Chatty sir. I'd like to thank you guys for having me over. And cricket, I used to play cricket, and then I used to play a lot of other sports when I was growing up. I think that was a key factor in my development as a sports person, I would say, because these days a lot of kids I see that they, there's this concept called early specialization, and a lot of people, they jump into doing one sport and they want to really improve in that one sport, but then that's probably, in my opinion, that leads to, they're not able to do justice to their talent because they're just not developed physically to do that. Say, for example, if you just do one sport, then over a period of time, you'll start developing injuries and, overuse injuries. So that's why you're supposed to do a lot of sports when you're growing up, so that, after a certain point, you can specialize. So knowingly or unknowingly, that's what I did. And then because maybe I had a very short attention span, and I used to, so first of all, I started doing swimming, and then I grew up and I played tennis, I played cricket, I played badminton, I played so many sports just for fun, and then one thing led to the other, and then finally ended up in athletics, and then I'm still sticking to athletics because I think I found some success there.
So what made you stick to athletics? What made you decide that athletics is where, was your raison d'etre, so to say?
So I think for anybody, I think once you start tasting success, then you want to stick to that sport. So in all these other sports, I had some success, but nothing like athletics. So one day when I was training in school, there's this new coach that had come to our school, and he said, "Hey, do you want to, do athletics?" And at that time I was playing cricket. I was in 8th standard. So I said, well, I don't know. I can try. I like playing other sports, but at the same time, I don't know if my dad will let me, miss school and other things and do athletics. So he said, well, we can talk to dad and all that. So my coach went up, he called my dad, and he said, can Tejaswin, do athletics or whatever? Then he said, no, I don't think he can do it because he needs to study and then he needs to focus on cricket. That's all he needs to do. Then after some time, my coach was really smart. He used to make me, do stuff, just all the fun stuff, all the glamorous stuff about athletics, just jumping and, fun stuff. So he used to make me do that during lunch break, and I used to enjoy athletics. At that time, I hadn't done the, the gruesome running, all those hard workouts. So I was really excited. I said, okay, well, if this is working for me, then I will just make sure that I can do all these things during lunch break and other times, so we can fit it in during school hours, and that way I wouldn't have to go before school or after school, and my father wouldn't know. So that's how I started doing it, and then that's the story behind it.
So how was it when your father found out that you were in athletics? Was he agreeable, or was there some?
So this little game went on for 3 or 4 months, and in September there's the Delhi State Championships, which they have usually every year. So I was good enough to. My coach thought that I was good enough to go to the Delhi State Championship in my age group, which was under 16 at that time. And he said, "Well, let's go and test the waters and see what you can do in a state meet." And that's the first time I saw a high jump pit. Before that, I used to jump over the bar, and I used to land in a sand pit. So because our school didn't have a high jump pit. So that was the first time I saw a high jump pit also. But we went to Jawaharlal Nehru Stadium, and then that was during school hours. And I told him, अच्छा सर एक बात बताओ, अगर स्कूल टाइम से पहले हम आ जाएंगे ना, बस से वापस घर जाने से पहले आ जाएंगे ना 150 से पहले. उन्होंने बोला या हाँ 150 से पहले आ जाएंगे. मैंने 150 से बाद में आया तो फिर मेरे को घर कॉल करना पड़ेगा मुझे पिकअप करने के लिए, वरना और वो कॉल करूंगा तो फिर वो पूछेंगे कहाँ से पिकअप करना है और क्यों लेट हो गए, बस क्यों मिस कर दी. तो टू अवॉइड ऑल दैट कन्फ्रंटेशन आई सेड अगर 150 से पहले हम आ जाएंगे तो आप मुझे लेके जाइए. देन ही सेड या 150 से पहले आ जाएंगे, मैं भी आपकी सिचुएशन समझता हूँ, दिस एंड दैट. सो वी वेंट देयर. अब मेरी भी किस्मत शुरू से हमेशा से बहुत अच्छी रही है. तो जैसे ही हम वहाँ पहुंचे वो मीट डिले हो गई. फिर उसके बाद उन्होंने बोला कि अब ये शुरू ही मेरे ख्याल से 1 बजे होगा. तो अब नाउ दिस डील वाज सपोज टू स्टार्ट एट 1 o'clock. अब मुझे कॉल करना है घर में और बताना है कि ऐसे हो गया. तो मी एंड माय कोच डिसाइडेड अच्छा हम अभी के लिए अवॉइड करेंगे एंड वील जस्ट फोकस ऑन द टास्क इन हैंड. सो we did the competition, it was really good, and I was able to jump 170. That was the first time. Usse pehle I'd never jumped, and that's okay. Also during that time I never used to do, I didn't know how to do the Fosbury flop because we didn't have a high jump mat in our house, in our school. So we used to do the scissor kick. So that's way harder than the Fosbury flop, but then I think that's the right way to begin high jumping, and knowingly unknowingly that's what I did because we didn't have a high jump mat. So वहां जाके I used to jump. I could jump even higher at the state meet because now I didn't have to worry about landing because there was a mat. So I just went up and then lifted both my legs and just fell down. तो उससे क्या है मुझे दूसरा पैर नीचे लाने की टेंशन नहीं थी. So I used to get I got a little bit more air time. So that way it was my first meet and everything. I was able to get a bronze medal and that was my first state meet. So now I have to go back home. So I call my mother because I know I can't call my father. The first person I'll call is my mother. So she said, "अच्छा बस मिस कर दी, कहाँ हो अभी, इतना लेट हो गया, 1 घंटा हो गया. We were trying to reach you." So after we were done with the competition, my coach showed me his phone. उसमें मेरे पापा के 3 मिस कॉल थे. फिर मैंने अपना फोन देखा, उसमें मेरे पापा के 10 मिस कॉल थे. मैं समझ गया नहीं, अरे यार तो गर्म पानी में. So that's why I called my mother and she said, कहाँ हो पापा, गुस्से में, घर नहीं आए, कहाँ हो तुम. और उससे पहले मैंने कभी ऑटो भी नहीं ली थी. आई वाज अ वेरी पैम्पर्ड किड, और मतलब शेल्टर्ड हाउस कहते हैं ना, तो उससे पहले मैंने कभी ऑटो भी नहीं ली 8th स्टैंडर्ड से पहले. तो उन्हें बोला कहाँ हो पापा, वाज वरीड, कुछ पता है नहीं, तुमने कोई वो नहीं दिया. और वो फोन भी वो ऐसे नोकिया वाले होते थे, उसमें बैटरी बहुत चलती थी. तो और वो मेरे को इसलिए मिला था क्योंकि हम ट्यूशन जाते थे आश्रय के साथ और ऐसे. तो उसने फिर वो कॉल किया एंड देन शी सर अच्छा. मैंने बोला ऐसे नेहरू स्टेडियम में. क्या नेहरू स्टेडियम में क्या कर रहे हो, पापा को बताया तुमने? मैंने तो नहीं बताया, इसीलिए आपको फोन किया, बता दो. तो फिर उसके बाद उन्होंने पापा को बताया. फिर उसके बाद मैं एक्सपेक्ट कर रहा था कि कोई आएगा लेने के लिए, या तो वो आएंगी या फिर ड्राइवर भी आएंगे, कोई आएगा. बट टर्न्स आउट पापा खुद ही आए स्टेडियम में लेने के लिए. तो फिर और वो घबराहट हो रही है. जैसे ही मैंने गाड़ी आ रही थी तो मैंने सर को बाय बोला, और ऐसा मतलब मैं ऐसे हीरो उसमें कि अरे ब्रॉन्ज मेडल आया, उसमें ऐसे करके बैग रखा, गया गाड़ी की तरफ देखा, अंदर पापा बैठे यार. उसके बाद मैंने दरवाजा खोला, बैग रखा है अंदर. उसके बाद घर तक आए, मैंने कुछ नहीं बोला, उन्होंने कुछ नहीं बोला. वी जस्ट गॉट बैक होम एंड देन उसके बाद घर आए. फिर उसके बाद मैंने रूम में बैग रखा और फिर उसके बाद मैं जाके खड़ा हो गया हमारे ड्राइंग रूम में, क्योंकि मुझे पता था कि अब अच्छा सा एक दोस्त मिलने वाला है. सो आई जस्ट वेंट एंड स्टूड देयर कि यार रेडी मेंटली कि चलो अब मिल जाएगा दोस्त. तो फिर उसके बाद फिर उन्होंने बताया कि अरे तुम्हें मुझे पहले बताना चाहिए था कि अगर तुम्हें इतना वो है और इतना ही आने की कोई जरूरत नहीं है, वो जो टॉक है. तो उन्होंने बोला कि ऐसे बताना चाहिए था, मैं इसीलिए हूँ तुम्हें सपोर्ट करने के लिए, बट अब तुम्हें मुझे बताओगे नहीं तो फिर कैसे रहेगा. एंड दैट टाइम इट जस्ट फेल्ट वेरी reinforcing. I was like, well, बता ही देता यार ऐसे, मतलब मुझे ही अच्छा नहीं लगा उस समय. After that I just like told him that I really like doing aesthetics and I think I want to do this. And he's like, well, the problem with you has been that you just do everything, you do it just to do it, but if you want to do something, I want to do it to like be good in it and like do justice to your talent or whatever. And then फिर उसके बाद मैंने वो बात समझी, and then since then I've been doing athletics, and I think I'll do it as long as I can.
So I remember in ninth class, when we were in tuition, so Tejaswin, I think, just started with this high jumping and everything. So I remember तेरा 195 था उस time पे, 196 था, and 2 years later or 3 years later, you were at 229. So what was your big break, and what was the turning point in your life? कि मतलब that huge jump, what was it like?
I think with, so like you said, I mean, the time frame was like, initially I saw great improvement, and that's any, I mean, I think that's the deal in any sports. I mean, if you can do it for certain years and if you like perfect your craft, उसके बाद आप improvement बहुत जल्दी देखते हैं. But like after a certain point, when you're at like that point, उसके बाद फिर आपको improve, that's when the real sport starts, and that's when the real
Right.
games begin. So when I was growing up, physically be mature हो रहा था, mentally be mature हो रहा था, so I was able to see a lot of improvement. And then each year I used to put on 8 centimeters, 9 centimeters, and that's really good. So, and then in 2016, that was the first time I jumped 226, and our national record at that time was 225, and I was, I think, 16, so 18, I was 17 years old in
Yeah.
2016. So for me, I was on cloud 9. At the same time, I was like shocked. I was like, okay, इतना easy है, तो इसके लिए इतना कर रहे थे, So, but then after that, I realized, okay, from 26 and today I'm at 29. So 2016 to 2020. So it took me 4 years to improve 4 centimeters. So that just shows that it's not about, like, okay, if you put on 5 centimeters every year, that means you'll put on 5 centimeters for the rest of your life. So अगर ऐसा होता तो फिर अभी तक मैं पोल वॉल्ट कर रहा था बिना पोल के. बट तो वो लोग समझते नहीं है, कहते हैं अच्छा इतना इम्प्रूवमेंट में आप इस रेट पे इम्प्रूव कर रहे हैं, 40 पे करते रहना चाहिए, बट वो बिल्कुल लीनियर रिलेशनशिप नहीं होता ना. So
Right.
that's one thing. So I feel like that's always been something that I used to like beat myself up with कि अरे यार मैं से improve नहीं हो रहा, मैं पिछले साल तो मैंने 5 सेंटीमीटर बढ़ाया था, इस बार 1 ही बढ़ाया. So over a course of time I understood कि ऐसे नहीं होता है, वो आपको longevity करनी है और आपको लंबा खेलना है, तो you have to just like stick with it. And
So what is your like motivation कि मतलब now I know this कि मतलब every 1 centimeter takes hours and hours of practice. So what is your process like? How do you keep yourself motivated that way? कि I have to get to that 233 or a 234 or a 235. So what is your process that way?
I think after you start liking the sport and after you start loving the sport, at that time, there's just one thing that drives you forward, and that's the purpose or the goal. So for me, the goal when I took up the sport, like any other individual, was to represent my country in the Olympic Games and win a medal for our country. So over time, I've just felt that purpose just become stronger and stronger, and I feel ज़्यादा हो गया. So I feel that I have to just try and do justice to that talent and just be true to myself and do what I want to do in the long run. So वो एक purpose रहा है. And then over the course of time आप कुछ करते हो तो वो routine जो होता है, वो मुझे routine में रहना काफी अच्छा लगता है. So over the course of time, so last week I took so for the past 2 weeks I've been on break, और मैंने कल ही start किया Monday को, just because I've been going on from April all the way up till here, and then last time I got a break was last year. So अभी मैंने break लिया for 1 week, and then the only thing that was on my mind was, out of the 56 weeks मेरे को यही था मेरे मन में कि अरे मैंने एक हफ्ता ब्रेक लिया, क्या होगा, ऐसा होगा. So it's just that routine factor that once you're in a routine, everything feels so normal. So when I talked to my coach, उन्होंने यही बोला कि during quarantine, so before the coronavirus and everything hit, things were starting to shut down. So I said, what should I do? Should I take a break, or all the facilities are closed, सब कुछ बंद है, मैं क्या कर सकता हूँ? He said, well, what I feel is if you stay in a routine, if you stick to a routine, then mentally भी आपका वो एक एक आप बैक स्पेस में नहीं जाएंगे, at the same time physically भी आपकी डेवलपमेंट होती रहेगी, so process चलता रहेगा. So we just made things happen. सब कुछ बंद था, but we were able to train on the road or run here, do this, do that. So we were able to do a lot of things, and then I feel if I would have stopped then I wouldn't have been where I am today physically, preparation wise. So I feel all I have to do is just capitalize on this and keep improving.
So what kind of a routine have you been following? We've been seeing some pictures of you in the papers in India. We've also seen something on your Twitter feed, on your Instagram feed. So if you could elaborate a little bit more on, you said routine is important and your coach advised you to have a routine.
So high jumpers are generally, it's a very special breed because it's a mix of, you have to be really strong, you have to be really powerful, but at the same time you have to be really lean and skinny. So it's simple physics. क्या जितना आप में पावर होगी, जितना जितना लाइट ऑब्जेक्ट होगा उतना ज्यादा ऊपर जाएगा. बट एट द सेम टाइम लाइट तो ठीक है, बट उसके लिए आपको पावरफुल भी होना पड़ेगा, क्योंकि आपको कोई बाउंस नहीं कर रहा है, आपको खुद ही बाउंस करना है. तो once you're in the air, it's like a projectile. आप कोई कुछ नहीं कर सकते अपनी डायरेक्शन को चेंज करने के लिए. So you have to, so it's all about technique, when you start the approach run, फिर उसके बाद आप जब कर्व भागते हैं, फिर उसके बाद how your posture is, how you approach the bar, where you look at, all those things matter, because like it's end of the day आप जब वहाँ पे टेक ऑफ पोजीशन में जाते हैं, तो it's like an angle that you're looking for, and then उसके बाद फिर उसके बाद once you like run properly and then once you take off, फिर उसके बाद all you have to do is just like make sure that you don't dip early or do those sort of things. तो इसीलिए जब मैंने बोला कि scissor kick was helpful for me, वो इसलिए था कि high jump में beginners का क्या होता है कि जब crossbar होता है, and when you see a mattress, okay, you're not going to fall anywhere, so you just like dive into the bar rather than go up and then go up. So वो problem मेरे साथ अवॉइड हुई क्योंकि वो पिट नहीं था, and I used to do the scissor kick, तो मेरे को अप ही जाना था क्योंकि अंदर जाता तो बार हिट हो जाती. So that was one way of not developing bad habits. And but routine अगर आपने पूछा है तो routine के हिसाब से generally, like I said, high jumpers are very funny physicality. So to develop that, you do a lot of plyometrics, you do a lot of plyometrics as in like short contact jumps and stuff to like stiffen your tendons. फिर उसके बाद you do running, फिर उसके बाद bounding, and weight training is a very important component of high jump training. So these are some of the things that we do on a regular basis, and yes, that's what we do.
I just want to add that when you were speaking about the physics of it, I'm sure Sunita ma'am would have been really, really proud of that. All the physics of it. So anyway, yeah.
So Aashray, I wanted to pick up on that and ask him more, because two of you have studied physics more than I have. So pick up that projectile and the angle. I think that's a very interesting point that he's made up.
Exactly. It's like a lot of people would be very proud when they were hearing all this. A lot of people in our science class. Speaking of that, have you been like up with your academics as well? Do you is it an overburden? Is it a burden for you, or you like love academics along with your schedule?
In my opinion, I feel that the talk that, I mean, it's my opinion again, but I feel that the talk that sports and studies can't go together, and like, oh, I couldn't find to do this training or this because of class or studying. I think that's very overrated. And for me personally, it's been very stress busting, so to say, because you can't train for more than X number of hours a day, because I mean, you need rest. Rest is also a very integral part of your training. So at that time, what do? One, you can just lay around in your bed and just stay there and just be lazy. Two, you can make the most of that time and learn something and improve yourself and go achieve something that you want to, apart from, because a lot of people when they do sports or do anything in life, they say, oh, this is my life, this is my life. No, for me, I think it's a part of my life and I want to do that as well as I can. But at the same time, academics or something else, whatever I want to do, that's also another part of my life. I want to do both simultaneously, and both to the point where I can't do better in each. So that being said, that's why I'm here. So the one reason that I chose to be a part of the NCAA system was because they pay for your education, and at the same time you can do your sport and train under one of the best coaches in the world. So when I got to know that, okay, so the first deal for me was, okay, where do I train and how do I train? Second thing, right after that was, is my education covered? So once I got to know that, yes, you get your education, then I decided, okay, so I want to come here. I want to do an education. So now by the time I finish in 2 years, I'll have my master's as well. And then after that, I'll plan to do other things on my academic front. But like you said, I really strongly feel that academics is as important as sports, if not more. And, even if you don't want to do anything, I think even if you take one class or do something, it'll help you as a stress buster, and that way you'll be able to focus more on your sport, because that little time off helps you not think about the sport and not beat yourself up. And then once you go back for evening training or the next day, then you just feel a lot more fresher and a lot more ready to train rather than just beat yourself up.
So are classes on for you? Academics, are they starting? What is the scenario the university now?
So during the coronavirus time, I think it was March and April were we were still in our spring semester classes, and after that they moved it online, and then I did summer classes online. Then now the fall semester, which is August through December, they're talking I think after the rule came out that all foreign students have to go back to their home country, and then now they've changed that and they said, okay, so you can be enrolled in hybrid and online classes. So I'm enrolled in hybrid and online classes, and I can stay here as of now, so I don't think that should be a problem.
So you will be allowed to train and continue to train with your coach.
That's I think I will be, because as of now everything everything they say, everything anybody says is until further notice. So that's the key term these days. So you never know what's going to happen, what might happen. But I personally feel that things are headed towards the right direction, and I think things will calm down. So as long as we can take our precautions and measures and make sure that we don't do anything stupid to cause the situation to erupt or
Correct.
get bad.
Speaking of the training, so how different things were like in India and when you came to the US, like diet wise and the facilities wise, how different was it?
So when I first came in here, the facilities, I mean, it's just overwhelming, how far ahead. It's just a university, and you can compare it to like one of our sports centers or sports institute. It's I think it was an eye opener for me, and it's just the amount of money that they pump in into the university system or school system to like improve the grassroots level. So that was something that was an eye opener for me. And after that, sorry, what was the question?
Just basically diet wise, how's the like? I'm sure you get much more option, lot more options to to keep yourself fit and like that. That's my question basically. Diet wise, what's the change and everything?
So training wise, it was just the fact that it's a little bit more regimented, and when you wake up in the morning, I mean, yes. So when you get so we get the training sheet. It's like a workout sheet, and they tell you what you need to do, and it's
Mm-hmm.
for the whole week. So it's just a lot more regimented. So you have something to look forward to. Okay, so today I'm doing this. Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, this is what I'm doing. So when you go show up to training, you know what you're supposed to do there. So like even before training, you can make up your mind. Okay, this is what I want to do today, and this is how I want to improve myself. So there's some sort of regimentation in training. But back home that was lacking. But at the same time, I wouldn't say that. It's just the fact that there's some things that were available, and then रक्षाबंधन की छुट्टी में स्टेडियम बंद है, इसकी छुट्टी में स्टेडियम बंद है, छुट्टियां बहुत ज्यादा होती हैं, तो उस चक्कर में थोड़ा हो जाता है. But here,
Correct.
okay, even if the university is closed for something, there's always the high school track or something, and there's always some place where you can go and train and do your training. So
Mm-hmm.
that way, I think it's a lot more easier. But diet wise, I think even back home, I didn't struggle a lot because इंडिया में तो वेजिटेरियन का बहुत खाना होता है. So I didn't used to eat any meat when I was back home, but here I started eating fish to fuel my protein intake. So that way I think it's a lot more bland, and everything's boiled and poached and grilled. But back home is tandoori se nikal ke अच्छे से
Right.
मसाला डाल के अच्छा होता था. So I used to miss all that, but yeah, for the past so many years I didn't have any of that when I got here. So last week when I went to my aunt's house, वहाँ पे एक हफ्ते में मैंने एक साल का कोटा पूरा कर लिया.
But you love Oreos. I believe you've been trying a lot of Oreos. I read somewhere.
Oreos,
Yes.
well, a lot of people say, oh, I have a sweet tooth and this and that. I tell them that I have 32 sweet teeth, and it's just very hard for me to control my sugar rush. So once after 9 o'clock, I'm really good up till 9 o'clock. I wake up in the morning, make sure I stick to my food pattern, food plan, whatever. And after 9 o'clock, if I'm still up, then I know from 9 to 11, that's like वो कहते हैं ना राहु काल होता है. So 9 to 11 is my worst time, and that's when I struggle a lot, because that's when I'm watching TV or something, and that's when okay, अब fridge में क्या है, इसमें क्या है, cupboard में क्या है. So that's the challenge for me.
So moving forward now, let's talk about two things. One is your immediate goals, and then your preparation for qualifying for Tokyo Olympics.
So um, before coronavirus hit, I had certain goals, and I was at the NCAA championships in Albuquerque. That's where I was planning on. I physically, honestly, I felt really good in that competition. So I knew I could do really well in that competition, and that could have been something that would have gotten me close to my Olympic dream. But then, अब जो चीज हुई नहीं उसके बारे में बात करके कोई फायदा नहीं. So that meet didn't happen because we were there in Albuquerque, and then like the day, one day before I was supposed to jump, they said that okay, the meet's cancelled because of coronavirus, and then everybody has to go back home. So we flew back home. At that time, we didn't understand the gravity of the situation, and we were like, okay, कोई बात नहीं, चलो कुछ है. But then we didn't know that we'll be out for so many months. So after that, it took me a week to just wrap my head around the fact that ऐसा है, ऐसा है. So then after that, that's when I went up to the coach and I asked him, okay, what do you think? You know, should I continue training or should I take some time off? Should I try and go home? All that. But that's when he said, okay, I think you should really continue training. And if you go home, do you think you'll be able to train? I said, no, our country's under lockdown. So he's like, well, what do you want to do? I said, well, I really want to stay here and train then. So वो उसके बाद था. तो उस समय जैसे आपने बोला goals, so that's when I was able to reevaluate my goals and see what I want to do. So उस समय का और अभी का particular goal ये था कि I just want to get into the best physical shape I can, because once you're physically fit, then you can transition into high jump training. चलो ऐसे कोई बोलता है कि मेरे को अच्छा हाई जंपर बनना है, तो मैं उसे ये बोलता हूँ सबसे पहले आपको अच्छा एथलीट बनना पड़ेगा before you can be a good high jumper or a good long jumper or whatever. So physically there shouldn't be any weak or like any weakness in your body, just to like make sure that once you start technical training or specializing in one thing, you're ready to do that. So वो मेरा अभी goal है कि I'm just general fitness is really high, and that's what I've been working on for so long, the past so many months. And I'll probably start jumping again sometime in November, just getting into the rhythm of jumping. So November, December, and I'll probably start competing in January, do some indoor meets, and then hopefully everything's fine by January. I can do some indoor meets, and so Jan, Feb, March. So I have 3 months there, and then April I'll probably try and come back to India and do our Olympic qualifier meet, and then come back here, train for some time, and then get ready for July. So that will be the goal as of now. But then long-term goal would be, yes, to compete in the Olympics, win the Olympic Games next year. 2021 is very crucial because they have the World Championships and Commonwealth Games and all those things, Asian Games. So Asian Games 22. But yes, so for me, it's just a matter of staying consistent. So my long-term goal, like you asked me, is, well, winning a medal is everybody's dream, but for me, it's about consistency. If I can consistently perform over a long course of time, I don't see why I can't win a medal. So for me, the long-term goal is consistency, and if I can be consistent, like I said, I don't think there's a force that can stop me.
So for the qualifier meet, you have to be physically present in India. They will not accept your score from the US if you were to jump that high.
Yeah, that's how it's been in the past, and I think they'll stick to that policy. So I'll have to come back to India and do the qualifier meet.
Right.
So the other one that I wanted to always find out is Sotomayer's record of 245 unbreakable, or do you think some point in time, somebody will be bigger than Sotomayor and jump higher than him?
I think, honestly, now that you ask me that question, I can't help but wonder that how it's like a mythical number, 245, and there's been so many guys that have always come close. There's been, I think, 8 to 9 guys who've jumped over 240, and then there's been 2 guys that have jumped over 242, and then there's been 1 guy who's jumped over 240 n number of times, and he's jumped 243 one time, and he's jumped 242 multiple times, and even he wasn't able to break the record, and that just shows how extraordinary that record is. And I just hope, I really don't know, honestly. It's such a tough question, and it's very interesting.
Between your best and 245 is 16 centimeters. on the bar, how high does it seem when you see 228 here and 245 there when you look at it? Have you ever tried doing that?
It just changes everything. I have jumped 260 off of a 10-inch ramp. So that just shows how extraordinary that record is. So I need a ramp to get over that 245, and that guy's jumped that without the ramp from the ground. So it's just honestly, I it just blows my mind. The amount of speed, the amount of strength, the amount of stiffness in his tendons, the amount of velocity that he's bringing towards the bar. The momentum. So that just shows how extraordinary that record is and how extraordinary he should have been physically to be able to do that, to complete that jump. So yeah, it's very exciting to me to go into the depths of the sport and understand how and the hows and the whys. And I think that's one way of, that's the most important, that's the most well tested way of growing and improving yourself. You have to be really involved in what you're doing and always be open to learning. So
To someone like us who are like not very familiar and very, we don't know a lot about it. So for us, high jump looks like a very injury prone sport, and I'm sure you've had some injuries as well. So what do you do exactly? What's your process to come back from it, and how do you like keep yourself motivated कि अभी और करना है? What is your
I think
la,
all sports
la,
are injury prone. अब आप आशरे बहुत
so,
क्रिकेट खेले हुए हैं. अब आप ही बताइए, क्रिकेट खेलते हुए भी तो बॉल कभी लग जाती है, कुछ हो जाता है, तो फिर
correct.
क्रिकेटर्स को तो ज्यादा इंजरी होती है, और होती भी है तो वो बताते ज्यादा हैं ये फिंगर. और मेरे को तो टेनिस एल्बो पता ही क्या होता है तब लगा था जब सचिन को टेनिस
Sachin
एल्बो हुआ था, उससे
Tendulkar.
पहले मुझे पता भी नहीं ऐसा कुछ होता है टेनिस एल्बो. So all these little things. So I think injury is, it's a part and parcel of what you're doing. अब घर में बैठे रहेंगे तो कोई इंजरी नहीं होगी, लेकिन फिर उसके बाद फिर मनी भी नहीं मिलेगा. तो वही रिस्क रिवॉर्ड वाला रेशियो है कि आप कितना रिस्क ले सकते हैं, आपको रिवॉर्ड चाहिए. So I feel that's so when you get injured, that's when you realize that you have to. So when I got injured in 2017, that was one of my big injuries. I had a disc impingement in my lower back, and it was very hard for me to walk properly as well. So उस समय मतलब मुझे ऐसे याद आया कि यार 2016 नवंबर में मैंने 226 किया था. I broke the national record. And then 2017 जनवरी में मेरे से अभी चला भी नहीं जा रहा है, ये क्या है. So that's when you start appreciating what you've done in the past, and that's what fuels you to do even better in the future. And that's what I think helps you get over that injury and be like, चलो उस समय मैंने ये किया था, अब चोट लगी कोई बात नहीं, I have to make sure that I come out of this as quickly as I can so that I can do even better in the future. So वो एक चीज मेरे लिए हमेशा मोटिवेटिंग रही है कि जब भी मुझे चोट लगती है तो हमेशा मैं उसको एक पॉजिटिव वे में लेता हूँ. And that really helps me go back and analyze what I did and what I did wrong, what I did right, and then make sure that I pick up all the right things and carry that forward through the bridge of injury. और उसके बाद जो wrong things है उसको मैं वहीं पे बैगेज को छोड़ के आगे बढ़ने की कोशिश करता हूँ.
So, yeah, Aashray, sorry, you were saying something. You have a follow-on question, Aashray?
No, I was just asking. Yeah, I was curious actually about something. I mean, I've known you to be a very, very calm person usually, but before an event or like before an event, an hour before the event or a night before the event, what kind of headspace are you in? What do you do 1 hour before an event or a day before an event?
So for every meet, I always try and keep things as similar as possible to. So all the prep for the 2 days leading up to meet for me are very similar, have been very similar in the last 3 years, because I just try to stick to a pattern. And अगर वो और बीच में वो थोड़ा बहुत ज्यादा वो आपके लिए खराब भी हो जाता है, क्योंकि फिर मेरे लिए ऐसा था कि अब कहीं पे अगर मुझे एक रेड बुल नहीं मिली या कहीं पे मैंने एक जूते गलत कलर के पहन लिए, तब मेरे वो दिमाग में होता था अरे मैंने ये कलर के जूते पहन लिए, अब मेरा क्या होगा कॉम्पिटिशन में, क्योंकि मैंने ये जूते पहने और वो वाले मेरे लकी वाले जूते नहीं पहने. तो ये लकी का जो कॉन्सेप्ट है और सुपरस्टिशन में जब आप ऐसे फंस जाते हो तो वो बहुत ज्यादा मेरे लिए मुश्किल था. So at that time for me the challenge was to break that superstition. I realized कि नहीं, superstition से कुछ नहीं होता है, आपकी मेहनत, आपने अगर अच्छा किया है ट्रेनिंग में और आपने मेहनत किया तो फिर आपको फल भी देगा, और अगर नहीं किया तो आपको कुछ नहीं मिलेगा. So it's as simple as that. So superstition में वो मैं फंस जाता था बीच में. So that's one thing that I've tried to come out of, and even if I try and find out that okay this is what I'm doing subconsciously or consciously, I try to break that habit. But leading up to a meet, generally headspace, I'm always, if it's, I mean, any competition, if it's a big or a small meet, there's a lot of competitions that we do just to get into the rhythm of competing. So, जैसे practice matches होते हैं. So, but
Right.
even for those competitions, I'm always thinking about, okay, what I need to do, what I can do, how I'll run the approach, what's the intensity I have to do for this height or this height or this height. So it's always on my mind. And for me, I always try to get good sleep 2 nights before the meet, because I know that the night before the meet I'm not going to sleep well. और वो मेरे अंदर हैबिट है, वो जब तक वो मेरे अंदर वो ऐसे ऐसे चर्निंग नहीं होती, बटरफ्लाइज इन द स्टमक नहीं होते, या फिर मुझे ऐसे थोड़ा ऐसा नहीं लगता है कि क्या होगा कैसे होगा, वो दिमाग में इतने सारे थॉट्स नहीं आते, तो मुझे ऐसा नहीं लगता है कि मैं कंप्लीटली रेडी और कंप्लीटली प्रिपेयर्ड हूँ, क्योंकि फिर उसके बाद इसका मतलब ये है कि मैं उसको लाइटली ले रहा हूँ. So for me, it's completely opposite of what one would, they'll be, okay, calm होना चाहिए, ये है, मैं गाने सुनता हूँ, ये करता हूँ, वो करता हूँ. I just like try and fuel that thought कि अरे ये हो गया, वो हो गया, ये क्या हो गया था. Just try and put in adverse situations के, तो फिर उसमें आपको बारिश हो गई या आंधी आ गई, तो those things just help you prepare. वो टाइम गलत है सोचने का वो सब के बारे में, but at the same time I just like try and get myself prepared for all adverse conditions. So उससे कई बार drawbacks भी हुए हैं, but now I've learned to cope up with the stress of it, and now I think that stress is routine for me, so I'm more comfortable with that.
So going back to that question of headspace that Aashray was asking, was say till about 1 hour. But when you're there at that moment and taking your 3 jumps or 5 jumps, at that point, are you calm and not thinking? And how do you get into the zone at that time?
So all these thoughts, all these adverse thoughts and everything, I carry all that with me up till the point that I finish my warm up. And even during my warm up, I'm thinking, अरे ये होगा क्या होगा, कुछ करते हुए spikes फट गए, मतलब जो भी चीज आप सोच सकते हैं वो सब चीज मैं सोचता हूँ. And it's just ridiculous. Sometimes when I look back, I'm like, यार ये सब भी सोच रहा था. So it's very ridiculous. But once I finish my warm up, and especially like, so after I warm up, general warm up, and then I put on my approach run and I do take a few jumps and just go over the bar and get the feel of going over the bar. And that's when I start getting comfortable with each jump, and just like, okay, वो वैसे तो ऐसा है कि इतनी प्रैक्टिस करते हैं, इतना साइकिल चलाने के जैसे कि भूल नहीं सकते, बट बिकॉज हम जनरली अगर सैटरडे compete करते हैं, do many jump session on Thursday, तो फ्राइडे एक दिन वो नहीं करने में ऐसा लगता है कि 1 साल नहीं किया. So it's just that feeling. So once you do some practice jumps, once you take some practice jumps and warm up jumps in the competition, after that I start getting comfortable with each jump. And once I start competing, उसके बाद तो मुझे पता है कि ठीक है, now I have to do what I have to do. And generally before the competition, right before the competition, with the practice jumps, I'm able to tell how my body is feeling and how everything is feeling. So after that I'm very calm, and once we get into competition mode, I'm very calm, and I need at least 2 Red Bulls just get me going, especially in the beginning, and charge me up, pump me up. And there's these videos of when I jump over the bar and I clear the bar, and I'm very excited, I'm very pumped, and I'm pumping the air or whatever I'm doing. And then when I look back at those videos, I'm like, nah, this is not me. But yeah, I mean, I do some stupid things when I'm competing, so I think everybody does stupid things when they compete.
You need a trademark like Usain Bolt, that kind of thing.
I think I have to become like Usain Bolt before I can think about a trademark like Usain Bolt.
Absolutely, you will.
Yes, of course. So, just one last thing I'll ask. You're 21 years old. You started from your school level. Now you're a national record holder. You've been through the system. Okay, so what is your advice for someone living in our country, a cricket crazy country, to think of a career in athletics? And I mean, and also have the problem of यार अगर financial का क्या होगा मेरे और क्या होगा, without any worry. What is your advice to that person कि कैसे करना है?
I think the first, honestly, I feel that's also the harsh truth कि finances are important, but जब हम finances के बारे में सोचने लगते हैं, तो there's just an added burden that we carry with us, and ये कैसे होगा, वो कैसे होगा, we just think a lot, and that's the harsh truth कि आप finances नहीं होंगे तो फिर आप कर भी नहीं पाएंगे. But for me, as a youngster, I think the one thing that, and I'm also a youngster, but I think the one thing that I'll suggest anybody who's starting up any sport, not only athletics but any sport, is at growing up, I really want everyone to do a lot of sports. Have a variety of do a variety of sports. Just have fun, so that you just improve your general athletic ability. Because आप पहले आपको athletic होना पड़ेगा physically. आप athletic होंगे, आप कोई भी sport खेल पाएंगे. Because if you pick any sportsman, जो अच्छे sportsman है, उन सबका मतलब एक कोई ना कोई background होता है कि उन्होंने ये sport खेला है, ये sport खेला है. Just for fun, उसमें वो अच्छे थे, खराब थे, but at the same time, they just learned skills or traits that they can carry over to their main sport. So generally हमारे यहाँ नहीं, but आजकल culture ये है कि अर्ली स्पेशलाइजेशन, जल्दी खेलना स्टार्ट करना है. और मतलब बच्चे जैसे वो 4 साल का हो गया, अरे बहुत लेट हो गया है, उसको जल्दी से उसको स्पिन किया से वो फिंगर में से बॉल थोड़ी फिंगर ऐसे वाइड करनी है और स्ट्रॉन्ग करनी है, तो उसको ऐसे ग्रिप कर दे देंगे हाथ में ऐसे करने के लिए. घर पे बैठे बैठे करता रहेगा. बच्चे घर पे छोटे छोटे बच्चों की वीडियो देखता हूँ, पुशअप करते हैं और वो ऐसे रो के कर रहे होते हैं, पुशअप हो नहीं रही होती, लेकिन उनके पेरेंट्स बोलते हैं अच्छा करना है तो फिर ये करना पड़ेगा भी. I think that just ruins the fun element out of the sport. And I think first of all, the first thing is to have fun. And if you have fun, that's when, अब आश्रय को मैं जानता हूँ बहुत साल, तो उसको पढ़ने में बहुत मजा आता है. So if you have fun if you have fun, तो फिर आपको वो ऐसा नहीं लगता है कि वो एक टॉर्चर है या फिर वो एक स्ट्रेस है या ऐसा लगता है. तो इसलिए आई फील इफ यू हैव फन व्हेन यू आर प्लेइंग, फिर उसके बाद धीरे धीरे वो पैशन में बदलता है. एंड देन एक बार पैशन में बदलता है तो उसके बाद फिर there's no going back. So my advice would be just like try a wide array of sports and just improve physically and just have fun. And then over the course of time you just find the calling. And once you find the calling, जैसे मेरा calling हुआ, मैंने सोचा नहीं था, मुझे पता भी नहीं था लंदन ओलंपिक्स तक 2012 तक मुझे ये नहीं पता था कि एथलेटिक्स भी कोई स्पोर्ट है. 2013 से मैंने स्टार्ट किया. मैंने ओलंपिक्स देखे थे, बट मैंने उसमें एथलेटिक्स बिल्कुल भी नहीं देखा. मैंने उसमें सिर्फ वेट लिफ्टिंग देखी और टेनिस देखी. So and then come 2016, I was thinking about, okay, I'm just close to the Olympic qualification mark, and how long is it going to take me to get to that qualification mark? So I think it's just a calling, and if you find that calling, or once you find that calling, it's just a matter of time. And after that, all you have to do is hard work and just be determined, and I think it'll be very easy to be successful.
So the last question from my side, Tejaswin, the biggest disappointment you've had so far in your career as a high jumper, and what has been your most memorable moment as a high jumper?
The biggest disappointment, honestly, I don't really think about. Once I'm done with a competition or once I'm done with a moment, I don't really think about that. So if you ask me good moments, I don't remember. Well, honestly, I should say that the NCAA championship that I won in 2018, that's the collegiate championship, it's very competitive. And most importantly, the weather was really harsh on me and on everybody in the competing field. And I think I was able to overcome that, and I was able to win my first collegiate national championship in my first year of college. So that was, I think, a really happy moment for me. And then one of the adverse moments for me would probably be, well, I told you how lucky I was. बचपन से मैं बहुत lucky होता आया हूँ. So for me in 2016, so in 2016, beginning of the year, I had no, that was not that. That's 2017. But 2016 में I was doing 215, 214 ऐसे इस range में मैं jump कर रहा था. And then in I think it was in August or maybe early in the year, we had the Asian Junior Championship. Then I was really ready. I was jumping 215, 216. I was like, okay, well, if I jump 217 in that range, then everything will be fine, and I'll get my first Asian Junior gold medal or some sort of medal. So we went to that competition. I was feeling good. I took some practice jumps. I was feeling good. And after like the first 2 heights, I injured my groin. And then at that time, I was really sad. I was like, yeah, it's training key. Then I injured my groin. And it was just so stiff. It was just very hard for me to walk properly. And then after that, things got better. I rehabbed and I got better. And then I thought, okay, so now we'll go to the US and we'll train there. And so that's when JSW Sports, they helped me, fund me to go to US. And the coach I was training under, he was one of our coaches' athletes. So he had represented USA in 2 Olympic games, and he was a Olympian. So I trained with him, and that's how I got to know about this coach that I'm training under now. So when I went to train with him, he said everything looks good, and we were training there for a month. And then I did some competitions there. I was doing really good back in the 215, 216 range. and then that was preparing for the World Junior Championships now, because I qualified for the World Junior Championships. So now, come World Junior Championship time, it was raining or something like that in Delhi, and then I was on the scooty and I was with my brother, and then एक turn लेते हुए skid हो गया scooty, and then I just, I वो skid इतने fast हुआ बारिश में that I didn't know what happened for a minute, and then after that I saw that I was on the ground and I had an accident. तो उसके बाद फिर मेरे यहाँ पे टाँके लगे, and then मेरे हाथ पैर हर जगह वो रोड का जो बर्न होता है वो हो गया, and then again like I was really hurt, and because of that I had to miss the World Junior Championships as well. So अब उस समय मैं बहुत ही लो पॉइंट में था कि एशियन जूनियर चैंपियनशिप साल के शुरू में गया, ट्रेनिंग करने के लिए गया, इतना खर्च करके, इतना टाइम वेस्ट करके, और वहां जाके वो हो गया, ऑल दोस थॉट्स वर इन माय हेड के फिर उसके बाद अब वर्ल्ड जूनियर चैंपियनशिप भी नहीं हुआ. दैट वाज 2016. So then I was like, okay, well, let's just wait for this to heal and see what we can do. So everything healed, got back into training, things were looking good, and then after that उसी साल के नवंबर में I was able to break the national record. So it's just the fact कि अगर आप determined रहेंगे and just like put your mind to one thing and just not worry about the past or what's coming, what's going to happen in the future. तो उस समय मेरे mind में बस ये था कि ठीक है, जो हो गया, जो आने वाला है वो तो आने ही वाला है, अब उसके लिए हमें सोच के क्या करना. So just be in the present and just do what you can do to better your situation. So that's what I did at that time, and that's one thing that I always learned from that situation के आगे भी मुझे कभी भी ज़्यादा पीछे के बारे में नहीं सोचना, ज़्यादा आगे के बारे में नहीं सोचना. Just do what I can do today and just live in the present, so that way that will make my future even better. So that's what I learned.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tejaswin, for your time. It's been wonderful speaking to you. We
you.
hope to bring many more laurels to India, and that 245 mark of Javier Sotomayor will be broken by you, if no one else. Because we know that you have the spark, you have the competence, you have the agility and ability. So Citius, Altius, Fortius, as they say. Thank you, Aashray. Have a nice evening, and have a nice day, Tejaswin, because it's still morning in Manhattan, Kansas for you. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
for
so
having me.
much.
Thank you, Aashray. Thank you, Chatty sir.
Thank you, Tejas. Thank you.